Salvete omnes. In this video, we're going to learn about indirect commands. Indirect commands are another subordinate clause that take the present and imperfect subjunctives. They are very similar to purpose clauses, which we previously learned about. In fact, they form the exact same way as purpose clauses. The only difference is the introductory verb. In previous videos, we looked at two different ways to give direct commands in Latin: the imperative and the jussive subjunctive. The imperative tends to be used by someone in a higher social position to someone in a lower social position, whereas the jussive subjunctive is typically used in a more polite way to give a request. Direct commands in Latin are generally given to second person singular or plural, you or you all. But jussive subjunctives allow you to also give commands to first and third person singular and plural, such as let's go or let him help. To review the forms of both of these types of direct commands, re-watch the jussive subjunctive video. Indirect commands are direct commands reported back after an introductory verb. So in English, while as a direct command, I would say to my dog,
Artie, sit.
As an indirect command, I would say, I ask my dog that she sit, or I ask my dog to sit. Notice in this example, the person of the command has changed between the direct and indirect command. The direct command sit is a second person command, whereas the indirect command, I ask my dog that she sit, has a command in the third person. Indirect commands are introduced by verbs of asking, of ordering, of begging, of advising, of urging, of persuading, and the like. So examples of these in Latin would be imperare, to order, plus a person in the dative, petere or quaerere, to ask, monere, to advise, suadere or persuadere, to urge or persuade, plus a person in the dative, and orare, to beg. Indirect commands in Latin are formed in the exact same way as purpose clauses. That means a positive indirect command is introduced by ut, and a negative indirect command is introduced by ne. The subordinate clauses also have verbs in either the present or the imperfect subjunctives. So if the introductory verb before the ut or ne is present or future, then the present subjunctive is used as the verb of the indirect command. But if the introductory verb before the ut or ne is a past tense, then the imperfect subjunctive is used as the verb of the indirect command. So let's revisit the idea of asking my dog to sit. As a direct command, I would say either sede or sedeas, depending on whether my dog had been naughty, for which I would use the imperative sede, or if I was just asking her to sit for a treat, for which I would use sedeas, the jussive subjunctive. As an indirect command, I ask my dog that she sit. In Latin, I would say a cane peto ut sedeat, where peto is the introductory verb to ask, ut introduces the indirect command, and sedeat is the present subjunctive as the verb of the indirect command. If I change the introductory verb to a past tense verb now, then the verb in the indirect command would change into the imperfect subjunctive. So if I wanted to say, I asked my dog that she sit in Latin, I would say a cane petivi ut sederet. Negative indirect commands are introduced by ne, as I previously mentioned. So if I wanted to say, I beg my dog that she not bark, or I beg my dog to not bark, I would say, canem oro ne latret. Or in the past tense, I was begging my dog that she not bark, canem orabam ne latraret. Notice that in the examples above, the indirect command translates exactly the same way, regardless of whether the introductory verb is present or future or a past tense verb. I asked my dog that she sit or to sit, and I asked my dog that she sit or to sit. A verb that is traditionally introduced early in learning the language of Latin is the verb iubeo, iubeere, iussi, iussum. This is also a verb that means to order, but it is exceptional in this instance in that it is very rarely followed by an indirect command. Iubeo is instead followed by an accusative of the person being ordered and an infinitive of the order. So to take the previous examples, in Latin, if I wanted to say, I order my dog to sit with the verb iubeo, I would say, canem sedere iubeo. And if I wanted to say, I order my dog not to bark, I would say, canem non latrare iubeo. So in this video, we learned that indirect commands are imperatives or jussives reported back after an introductory verb of ordering, asking, and the like. We learned that indirect commands are introduced by ut for a positive command and ne for a negative command. And we learned that the verb of the indirect command is in either the present or imperfect subjunctive. Present after an introductory verb in the present or future tense, and imperfect after an introductory verb in the past tense. You should now complete the exercise entitled Indirect Commands, which can be found in our learning management system. As always, if you have any questions, either rewatch the video or reach out to me via email. Valete omnes.